For number 20, we're given this pair of parametric equations here, and the first thing that we have to do is we have to eliminate the parameters. So we have that x is equal to 3 cosine of t, y is equal to 3 sine of t, and we're going to use this identity sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1 to eliminate the parameter. So let's square both sides of the equation. So x squared is going to be equal to 9 cosine squared t, and y squared is going to be equal to 9 sine squared of t. Now we're going to add these two equations. So on the left-hand side, if we add it, we're given that x squared plus y squared is going to be equal to, and now we add the right side. So 9 cosine squared of t plus 9 sine squared of t. And now all we do here is we factor out the 9 on the right-hand side. So 9 times cosine squared of t plus sine squared of t. And once we're here, we can see that we've gotten the expression that is the identity. So what that means is that cosine squared of t plus sine squared of t is just equal to 1. So x squared plus y squared is just going to be equal to 9 times 1, which is 9. So we know what this equation looks like. This is the equation of a circle. So it's a circle that's centered at the origin, but the radius is 3, and it goes like this. So this is a circle with radius 3, centered at the origin, which is the point 0, 0. Okay, now that we have eliminated the parameter t, they want us to describe the curve, which we did, and they want us to indicate the positive orientation. So for us to think about the positive orientation, we have to think about where the parameter begins and where it ends. So the parameter, it begins at 0. That's where, for t, that's where our curve is going to start. So let's plug in t is equal to 0 into our x and y equation. So x is going to be 3 times cosine of 0, and cosine of, oops, I meant to put cosine of 0, and cosine of 0 is just 1, so x is equal to 3, and y is going to be equal to 3 times sine of 0, and sine of 0 is just 0, so y is equal to 0. So what that means is that where the parameter begins at t is equal to 0, the corresponding point where the curve begins is at the point x is equal to 3, y is equal to 0. So we're going to say it begins at the point 3, 0, so that's the starting point of where the trajectory is going to be. And now let's just write where it ends. So we can see here that it ends at pi over 2. So let's plug in the value of pi over 2 in the parameter for the x and y equation so that we can find the corresponding point. So let's go ahead and plug it in. So x is going to be equal to 3 times cosine of pi over 2, and y is going to be 3 times sine of pi over 2, and which means that x is 3 times cosine of pi over 2 is just 0, so x is 0, and y is going to be 3 times sine of pi over 2, it's 3 times 1, so y is 1. So at the very end of the interval of the parameter, the corresponding point in the Cartesian coordinate is just the point 0, 1. So it begins at 3, 0 and ends at the point 0, 1. And that's it for problem number 20.